Welcome to Tech with Kaushik. This is part 7 of our complete practice question series for the AIF-C01 AWS Certified AI Practitioner exam. Choose your answer before the timer ends, then review the correct answer, explanation, and exam tip. Let us begin part 7. Work through question number 172. Step by step. This one tests your understanding of our AG architecture. First, locate the key operational constraint. An e-commerce company uses a large language model, LLM, to power a customer service bot. The bot frequently gives users incorrect information about product availability because the company's inventory levels change every minute. Which technique will allow the LLM to provide accurate answers using this rapidly changing data? Now compare the choices one requirement at a time. Option A is transfer learning. Option B is retrieval augmented generation, RAG. Option C is one-shot prompting. Option D is federated learning. The correct choice is B, retrieval augmented generation, RAG. RAG can retrieve current inventory information from an external data source when a user asks a question and provide that information as grounding context to the LLM. This improves response relevance and accuracy without retraining, provided the source data and retrieval process are current and reliable. The remaining options fail one or more requirements because A, transfer learning changes model weights and is unsuitable for minute-by-minute inventory updates. C, one-shot prompting supplies one example but does not retrieve live inventory data. D, federated learning trains across decentralized data sources and does not provide real-time knowledge retrieval. Use RAG when an LLM must consult frequently changing or proprietary information, validate retrieval and outputs because grounding improves accuracy but does not guarantee it. Let's analyze question number 173. Review the scenario and identify what must be achieved. A bank uses a machine learning model to flag suspicious credit card transactions. Every flagged transaction must be manually reviewed by a human analyst. The bank's primary goal is to minimize the number of legitimate transactions that are incorrectly flagged as fraud so analysts do not waste their time. Which model evaluation metric should the data science team optimize to achieve this specific goal? Check each option against the exact requirement. Choice A, accuracy. Choice B, recall. Choice C, precision. Choice D, lift chart. The best answer is C, precision. The requirement to solution matches precision measures the proportion of positive predictions that were actually correct. In this scenario, the bank wants to ensure that when the model flags a transaction as fraud, a positive prediction, it is highly likely to actually be fraud. High precision explicitly minimizes false positives, saving the analyst's time. Here is how to rule out the alternatives. A. Accuracy is the overall percentage of correct predictions, which is deeply misleading in fraud detection where 99.9% of transactions are not fraud. B. Recall measures how many actual fraud cases the model successfully caught. High recall minimizes false negatives, missed fraud, which is important, but the question specifically asks to minimize false positives, wasted analyst time. D. A lift chart is a visual tool used to evaluate the effectiveness of a predictive model compared to random guessing. It is not the core metric optimized for false positives. A useful exam pattern is this. To minimize false positives, crying wolf, optimize precision. To minimize false negatives, missing the target, optimize recall. Approach question number 174. By checking every constraint. We are moving to model customization. Identify the decisive constraint before considering the options. A specialized legal firm wants to adapt a foundation model so it can accurately answer procedural questions based on the firm's unique internal workflows. The firm has decided to use instruction-based fine-tuning on Amazon Bedrock to achieve this. How must the data engineering team prepare the training dataset for this specific fine-tuning method? Eliminate every option that violates even one requirement. Consider option A. Create explicit pairs of procedural questions and their corresponding correct answers. Consider option B. Merge all internal procedure documents into a single, massive unstructured text file. Consider option C. Collect general internet reviews and manually label them as positive or negative. Consider option D. Write a series of few short system prompts instructing the model to act as a lawyer. The required response is A. Create explicit pairs of procedural questions and their corresponding correct answers. The key clue points here because instruction-based fine-tuning requires a labeled dataset formatted as pairs of inputs, prompts instructions, and the desired outputs, responses. To teach the model to answer domain-specific questions, the training data must consist of explicit question and answer pairs formatted in JSON. Check why each remaining option is not the best fit. B. Merging documents into a massive unstructured text file is the data preparation method for domain adaptation, continued pre-training, not instruction-based fine-tuning. C. Labeling reviews as positive or negative is the data preparation method for training a sentiment analysis classification model, not an instruction-following queue and a model. D. Few shot prompting happens at runtime during inference. It is a prompt engineering technique, not a data preparation method for modifying model weights via fine-tuning. Watch for this clue in similar questions. Instruction-based fine-tuning requires structured prompt-response pairs. Continued pre-training requires massive volumes of unstructured text. Let's break down question number 175. Start by separating the facts from the requirement. A startup is launching a public generative AI tool powered by an Amazon Bedrock base model. The team cannot forecast early user demand and wants to avoid paying for unused dedicated capacity. Which pricing approach best fits this unpredictable workload? Review the options and eliminate any clear mismatch. Option A is use Amazon Bedrock with provisioned throughput. Option B is use Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart with dedicated instances. Option C is use Amazon Bedrock on-demand pricing. Option D is use continuously running GPU-powered Amazon EC2 instances. The option that satisfies the complete requirement is C. Use Amazon Bedrock on-demand pricing. The decisive reason is Amazon Bedrock on-demand pricing charges for model usage, commonly according to processed input and output tokens. It does not require the startup to keep dedicated inference capacity running, making it suitable for uncertain or spiky early demand. Now eliminate the distractors. A. Provision throughput reserves capacity and is better suited to predictable workloads that need dedicated throughput. B. Dedicated SageMaker AI instances accrue infrastructure charges while running, including during idle periods. D. Continuously running GPU instances create ongoing compute charges regardless of request volume. Remember this decision rule. For uncertain or low-volume Bedrock usage, on-demand pricing avoids dedicated idle capacity, reserved or provisioned capacity suits predictable throughput needs. For question number 176. Separate the requirement from the distractors. Pay attention to qualifiers such as least, most, and minimum. A software company deployed a customer support bot powered by a foundation model. However, users are hesitant to trust the bot's troubleshooting advice because they fear the AI might be hallucinating the technical steps. Which strategy is the most effective way to improve user trust and verify the bot's accuracy? Compare the options by fit, not by familiarity. Next, option A, designing an agent avatar that looks like a technical engineer. Next, option B, training the agent to respond with a highly confident and authoritative tone. Next, option C, including referenced links to the official product manuals directly in the response. Next, option D, appending a hard-coded, 100% confidence level string to the end of every response. After elimination, select C, including referenced links to the official product manuals directly in the response. Here is the reasoning that confirms the answer. One of the most effective ways to build trust in a generative AI system and combat hallucination anxiety is to provide transparency and provenance. By citing its sources and providing direct links to the official manuals, a common pattern in our AG architectures, users can independently verify the AI's claims, boosting confidence. The incorrect choices are plausible, but unsuitable because A, changing the visual avatar might make the bot look friendlier, but it does absolutely nothing to verify the factual accuracy of the troubleshooting steps. B, LLMs can hallucinate with absolute confidence. An authoritative tone does not make the information true and can actually be more dangerous if the AI is confidently wrong. D. Hard-coding a 100% confidence string is deceptive and does not provide the user with any actual proof or source material to verify the claim. Exam strategy. Providing source citations and grounding AI outputs in verifiable external data, RAG, is a core tenet of responsible AI transparency and explainability. Next is question number 177. Review the scenario. A developer is reading documentation about how foundation models process semantic meaning using vector embeddings. What is the primary function of a vector embedding in this context? Compare the options. Choice A, splitting large text documents into manageable, bite-sized chunks. Choice B, grouping individual characters together so they can be processed as a single word. Choice C, counting the exact frequency of every word within an input document. Choice D, representing words as high-dimensional numerical arrays to mathematically compare their meanings. After elimination, select D, representing words as high-dimensional numerical arrays to mathematically compare their meanings. This option satisfies the complete requirement because machine learning models cannot understand text. A vector embedding converts semantic meaning, words, sentences, or concepts, into an array of continuous numbers, a vector, in a high-dimensional space. This allows algorithms to mathematically calculate the distance between vectors to determine how closely related two concepts are. A. Splitting large documents into smaller pieces is called chunking, not embedding. B. Grouping characters into processable units is called tokenization, which happens before embedding. C. Counting the frequency of words is a statistical technique, like TF-IDF or bag of words, which lacks the deep semantic context captured by modern neural embeddings. Use this elimination rule in the exam. Embeddings translate human meaning, semantics, into machine math, high-dimensional vectors, so AI can measure similarity. Question number 178. Find the decisive clue before choosing. Next, we enter the topic of ML fundamentals. Look for the wording that eliminates the distractors. A consortium of hospitals wants to train a shared machine learning model to detect anomalies in patient X-rays. Due to strict healthcare privacy laws, the raw X-ray images cannot be moved from the individual hospitals to a central cloud server. Which machine learning technique allows the model to be trained collaboratively while keeping the raw data localized on the hospital's own servers? Watch for distractors that are valid services but wrong for this scenario. Consider option A, unsupervised learning. Consider option B, transfer learning. Consider option C, federated learning. Consider option D, reinforcement learning. The correct choice is C, federated learning. Federated learning is a decentralized machine learning technique where the model is sent to the local devices or servers where the data resides, like the individual hospitals. The model trains locally, and only the updated mathematical weights, not the raw, sensitive private data, are sent back to a central server to be aggregated. The remaining options fail one or more requirements because A. Unsupervised learning involves finding patterns in unlabeled data. It does not dictate network architecture or data privacy strategies. B. Transfer learning involves adapting a pre-trained model to a new task. It typically requires centralized access to the new training data. D. Reinforcement learning involves an agent learning through rewards in an environment unrelated to decentralized privacy-preserving training. Whenever a scenario asks how to train a model collaboratively without moving or sharing the sensitive raw data across the network, the answer is federated learning. Start by identifying the requirement in question number 179. Read the scenario with the target outcome in mind. A company is deciding whether to rely solely on an LLM's internal parametric memory or to implement a retrieval augmented generation (RAG) architecture for its new Q&A application. What is the primary advantage of choosing the RAG architecture? Use the scenario constraints to assess these choices. Choice A. RAG allows the model to reference external, up-to-date knowledge sources to generate more accurate and factual responses. Choice B. RAG is a data augmentation technique used to synthetically expand image datasets for computer vision training. Choice C. RAG drastically improves the speed and reduces the compute cost of training a new foundation model from scratch. Choice D. RAG automatically translates speech to text before processing it with the language model. The best answer is A. RAG allows the model to reference external, up-to-date knowledge sources to generate more accurate and factual responses. The requirement to solution match is RAG retrieves relevant information from external sources and adds it to the model's context at inference time. This can improve relevance, factual grounding, and access to current or proprietary information without changing the model's weights. Here is how to rule out the alternatives. B. RAG is not image data augmentation. C. RAG avoids retraining for knowledge updates. It is not a technique for accelerating foundation model pre-training. D. RAG does not perform speech recognition. Services such as Amazon Transcribe convert speech to text. A useful exam pattern is this. RAG improves grounding by supplying retrieved evidence, but response quality still depends on source freshness, retrieval quality, and output validation. Focus on the key wording in question number 180. This scenario tests whether you recognize the controlling constraint. A developer configured an Amazon Bedrock agent to assist employees with IT requests. The agent successfully executes actions, but sometimes formats its final text response incorrectly. The developer wants to fix this by showing the agent 3 exact examples of how the final output should look. How should the developer integrate these examples into the agent's workflow? Focus on which option satisfies the complete requirement. Option A. Run a script in AWS Lambda to dynamically insert the examples into the agent's API payload. Option B. Modify the advanced prompts for the agent to include the few short examples. Option C. Use Amazon SageMaker ground truth to create a labeled dataset of the examples. Option D. Configure a guardrail for Amazon Bedrock that mandates the exact output format. The required response is B. Modify the advanced prompts for the agent to include the few short examples. The key clue points here because Amazon Bedrock agents rely on system prompts to dictate their behavior. By modifying the agent's advanced prompt instructions to include specific examples of the desired input and correct output formatting, the developer is utilizing few-shot prompting to directly fix the formatting issue. Check why each remaining option is not the best fit. A. While Lambda functions execute action groups for the agent, writing a script to intercept and hack prompt examples into the API payload is an unnecessary and brittle workaround compared to using the native prompt configuration. C. Amazon SageMaker Ground Truth creates massive labeled datasets for model training or fine-tuning, which is extreme overkill for simply providing 3 formatting examples. D. Guardrails filter toxic content and PII. They do not force an LLM to generate a specific output format. Watch for this clue in similar questions. To improve an Amazon Bedrock agent's accuracy, tone, or formatting, always configure its advanced prompt instructions with few short examples before attempting complex coding solutions. Move to question number 181. The focus now shifts to AI development life cycle. Scenario: a machine learning team is transitioning from manual, ad hoc model deployment scripts to a formal MLOps pipeline. The team decides to implement infrastructure as code to define and manage their AWS resources. What is the primary operational advantage of adopting infrastructure as code in this MLOps environment? Option A. Infrastructure as code natively performs automated hyperparameter tuning for the models being deployed. Option B. Infrastructure as code guarantees that the ML models will achieve higher predictive accuracy. Option C. Infrastructure as code enables the automated, consistent, and repeatable deployment of scalable ML environments. Option D. Infrastructure as code enforces the use of the lowest cost compute instances regardless of the workload requirements. The option that satisfies the complete requirement is C. Infrastructure as code enables the automated, consistent, and repeatable deployment of scalable ML environments. The decisive reason is infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code defines infrastructure in version control templates. In MLOps, this enables teams to provision consistent, repeatable, and scalable training, testing, and inference environments across deployment stages. Now eliminate the distractors. A. Infrastructure as code can provision resources used by a tuning job, but it does not perform hyperparameter optimization itself. B. Infrastructure as code improves deployment consistency. It does not improve a model's predictive accuracy. D. Infrastructure as code deploys the resources specified in its templates and does not automatically force the lowest cost instance choice. Remember this decision rule. Infrastructure as code supports repeatable infrastructure deployment. It does not tune models, select optimal compute automatically, or improve model accuracy. Question number 182. Tests careful elimination. Look for the wording that eliminates the distractors. A data science team needs to select the appropriate Amazon SageMaker AI features to accelerate its machine learning workflows. Select the correct Amazon SageMaker AI feature for each use case. Use the context of each statement to select its drop-down value. For the first statement, evaluate, the team needs to clean and transform tabular data through a visual interface with little or no code. The blank. Eliminate between 1. SageMaker Canvas, SageMaker Data Wrangler, or SageMaker Feature Store. For the second statement, evaluate, the team needs to deploy a pre-trained foundation model for text generation with only a few configuration steps. The blank. Eliminate between two. SageMaker Ground Truth, SageMaker Jumpstart, or SageMaker Model Monitor. For the third statement, evaluate, the team needs a managed service to send images to human workers who will draw bounding boxes around objects. The blank. Eliminate between three. SageMaker Feature Store, SageMaker Ground Truth, or SageMaker Jumpstart. Question type, drop down. The correct answer is 1. SageMaker Data Wrangler, 2. SageMaker Jumpstart, 3. SageMaker Ground Truth. Here is why this answer is correct. SageMaker Data Wrangler supports visual data preparation with little or no code. SageMaker Jumpstart provides pre-trained models and streamlined deployment. SageMaker Ground Truth manages data labeling jobs that can route bounding box tasks to human workers. Answer rows. 1. The team needs to clean and transform tabular data through a visual interface with little or no code. Select vertical bar. SageMaker Data Wrangler vertical bar provides visual data preparation and built-in transformations. 2. The team needs to deploy a pre-trained foundation model for text generation with only a few configuration steps. Select vertical bar. SageMaker Jumpstart vertical bar provides pre-trained models and guided deployment workflows. 3. The team needs a managed service to send images to human workers who will draw bounding boxes around objects. Select vertical bar. SageMaker Ground Truth vertical bar provides managed human data labeling workflows, including bounding boxes. Here is an important exam tip. Data Wrangler prepares data, Jumpstart provides pre-trained models, and Ground Truth manages data labeling. Let's break down question number 183. Review the scenario and identify what must be achieved. A financial services company is developing an AI system to automatically approve or deny loan applications. Regulators mandate that whenever a loan is denied, the system must generate a human-readable report detailing exactly which financial factors led to the denial. Which core principle of responsible AI does this regulatory requirement enforce? Check each option against the exact requirement. Option A is explainability. Option B is data governance. Option C is privacy and security. Option D is fairness. The option that satisfies the complete requirement is A, explainability. Here is the reasoning that confirms the answer. Explainability is the responsible AI principle concerned with making the factors behind a model's output understandable to people. A human-readable account of why a loan was denied directly supports this requirement. The incorrect choices are plausible, but unsuitable because B, data governance concerns how data is managed, controlled, and maintained. It does not by itself explain an individual prediction. C, privacy and security protects sensitive data and systems, rather than describing the factors behind a model decision. D, fairness concerns equitable outcomes across relevant groups, not the generation of a decision rationale. Exam strategy. When stakeholders need to understand why a model produced a particular result, the key principle is explainability. Start by identifying the requirement in question number 184. This question moves us into ML learning types. First, locate the key operational constraint. A real estate agency wants to build a machine learning model that takes the square footage, number of bedrooms, and neighborhood of a house as inputs, and predicts the final sale price in dollars. Which type of machine learning task is this model performing? Now compare the choices one requirement at a time. Choice A, multimodal prediction. Choice B, transformer generation. Choice C, diffusion. Choice D, regression. After elimination, select D, regression. This option satisfies the complete requirement because in machine learning, regression is a type of supervised learning task used to predict a continuous numerical value, such as a house's sale price in dollars, the temperature, or future revenue. A. Multimodal models process multiple types of data simultaneously, like text and images, which does not describe the specific mathematical task of predicting a number. B. Transformers are a neural network architecture primarily used for language processing, LLMs, not the standard algorithmic category for predicting numerical prices from tabular data. C. Diffusion models are used to generate images from noise, entirely unrelated to predicting numerical values. Use this elimination rule in the exam. Predicting a category, for example, spam or not spam, is equal to classification. Predicting a continuous number, for example, $450,000, is equal to regression. Work through question number 185. Step by step. Start by separating the facts from the requirement. A healthcare network wants an AI tool to process us English patient-clinician conversations. The tool must transcribe the conversation, identify medical terms, and generate preliminary clinical notes that clinicians can review and finalize. Which purpose-built AWS capability provides these features? Review the options and eliminate any clear mismatch. Choice A, AWS Health Scribe. Choice B, Amazon Recognition. Choice C, Amazon Q Developer. Choice D, Amazon Poly. The correct choice is A. AWS Health Scribe. AWS Health Scribe combines speech recognition and generative AI to transcribe supported English patient-clinician conversations, identify medical terms, and generate preliminary clinical notes. Its output is assistive and should be reviewed by trained professionals. The remaining options fail one or more requirements because B. Amazon Recognition analyzes images and video, not medical conversations. C. Amazon Q Developer assists with software development and does not create clinical transcripts or notes. D. Amazon Poly converts text to speech. It does not transcribe conversations or generate clinical notes. For patient-clinician transcription plus preliminary clinical note generation, use AWS Health Scribe and retain human review. Approach question number 186. By checking every constraint. This question moves us into fine-tuning. Identify the decisive constraint before considering the options. A legal tech startup has licensed a general-purpose large language model. The model struggles to write contracts because it does not understand the structure of legal clauses. The startup decides to provide the model with a dataset of 5,000 prompt and response examples demonstrating exactly how specific legal clauses should be drafted. Which model customization technique is the startup applying? Compare the options by fit, not by familiarity. Next, option A, fine-tuning. Next, option B, model quantization. Next, option C, continuous pre-training. Next, option D, data augmentation. The best answer is A, fine-tuning. The requirement to solution matches instruction-based fine-tuning is the process of taking a pre-trained foundation model and updating its weights using a smaller, curated, and explicitly labeled dataset of examples, prompt and response pairs. This adapts the model to perform a specific task, such as drafting legal clauses, with high accuracy. Here is how to rule out the alternatives. B. Model quantization reduces the precision of the model's weights to make it smaller and faster for inference. It does not teach the model how to draft contracts. C. Continuous pre-training, domain adaptation, exposes the model to massive amounts of unstructured, unlabeled text to teach it a new vocabulary, whereas this scenario uses explicit labeled prompt response examples. D. Data augmentation artificially expands a dataset, for example, rotating images to prevent overfitting, which is not the act of updating a model's weights with task examples. A useful exam pattern is this: adapting a model using a labeled dataset of prompt response pairs to improve task performance is instruction fine-tuning. Now tackle question number 187. A software company is building an AI application and wants to align its design decisions with responsible AI principles. Select the responsible AI characteristic that best matches each design action. Complete every statement by matching the requirement to the option. Statement 1. Identify the clue in. The data engineering team removes user names and email addresses from historical chat logs before using them as training data. The blank. Compare 1. Governance, privacy and security, or transparency against the requirement. Statement 2. Identify the clue in. The UI team adds an Insights button that shows which internal documents the chatbot referenced when generating an answer. The blank. Compare 2. Privacy and security, safety, or transparency against the requirement. Statement 3. Identify the clue in. The security team configures content filters to block instructions for bypassing network firewalls. The blank. Compare 3. Fairness, governance, or safety against the requirement. Question type, drop down. The correct answer is 1. Privacy and security. 2. Transparency. 3. Safety. Here is why this answer is correct. Removing identifiers protects personal data and supports privacy and security. Showing referenced documents provides visibility into the information used and supports transparency. Blocking harmful cyber instructions supports application safety. Answer rows. 1. The data engineering team removes user names and email addresses from historical chat logs before using them as training data. Select vertical bar privacy and security vertical bar. The identification reduces exposure of personal information. 2. The UI team adds an Insights button that shows which internal documents the chatbot referenced when generating an answer. Select vertical bar transparency vertical bar. Source visibility helps users understand the basis of an answer. 3. The security team configures content filters to block instructions for bypassing network firewalls. Select vertical bar safety vertical bar. Filtering harmful instructions reduces unsafe use. Here is an important exam tip. Privacy protects data, transparency reveals how outputs are supported, and safety reduces harmful behavior. Question number 188. Next, we enter the topic of AI compliance. Scenario. A multinational bank is migrating its machine learning workloads to AWS. The bank's internal audit team requires official documentation proving that the underlying AWS infrastructure complies with international data handling regulations like SOC2 and ISO 27001. Which AWS service allows the bank to download these official compliance reports? Option A. AWS Secrets Manager. Option B. AWS Config. Option C. Amazon Macy. Option D. AWS Artifact. The required response is D. AWS Artifact. The key clue points here because AWS Artifact is the central resource for compliance-related information. It provides on-demand access to AWS's security and compliance reports, such as ISO certifications, SOC reports, and PCI DSS attestations. If an audit team needs proof that the underlying AWS infrastructure meets international regulations, They download it from AWS Artifact. Check why each remaining option is not the best fit. A. AWS Secrets Manager securely stores operational secrets like API keys and database passwords. It is not a repository for compliance audit reports. B. AWS Config tracks changes to the configuration of your AWS resources over time. It does not provide AWS's official third-party ISO SOC audit reports. C. Amazon Macy uses ML to discover sensitive data in S3 buckets, not to generate compliance attestations for the AWS infrastructure. Watch for this clue in similar questions. Any requirement to download official compliance reports, SOC, ISO, PCI, or sign regulatory agreements, BA, points directly to AWS Artifact. Question number 189. Identify the requirement in this scenario. A defense contractor runs an application in an Amazon VPC that sends sensitive engineering data to Amazon Bedrock. The security policy requires Bedrock API traffic to remain on the AWS private network without using an internet gateway or NAT gateway. Which two actions establish this private connectivity? Choose two. More than one answer may be correct, so evaluate every option. The choices are: Choice A. Create an interface VPC endpoint for the required Amazon Bedrock API endpoint. Choice B. Route Bedrock API calls through the interface endpoint by using private DNS or the endpoint-specific DNS name. Choice C. Route the traffic through a public NAT gateway. Choice D. Use Amazon CloudWatch logs as the network path to Amazon Bedrock. Choice E. Deploy Amazon Bedrock on AWS outposts. The required response is A. Create an interface VPC endpoint for the required Amazon Bedrock API endpoint. B. Route Bedrock API calls through the interface endpoint by using private DNS or the endpoint-specific DNS name. The decisive reason is Amazon Bedrock supports interface VPC endpoints powered by AWS Private Link. After creating the appropriate endpoint, the workload must send its Bedrock API calls through that endpoint, using private DNS or its endpoint-specific DNS name, so the traffic does not require public internet routing. Now eliminate the distractors. C. A NAT gateway provides outbound connectivity and does not satisfy the requirement to avoid public internet routing. D. CloudWatch logs records and monitors events. It is not a network path to Amazon Bedrock. E. Amazon Bedrock is a managed regional service and is not deployed on AWS outposts. Remember this decision rule. For private VPC access to supported AWS services, create an interface VPC endpoint with AWS Private Link and route service calls through it. Next is question number 190. We are moving to model customization. Scenario. A development team is planning how to adapt an Amazon Bedrock Foundation model for a financial application. Select the appropriate model customization method for each requirement. Treat each blank as a separate decision and choose the best fit. The first blank appears in: the team wants the model to adopt a conversational persona and has 1000 prompt and response examples. The blank. The candidates are 1. Continued pre-training or fine-tuning. The second blank appears in: the team wants the model to learn deep commodities market terminology from 50 gigabytes of unstructured trading reports. The blank. The candidates are 2. Continued pre-training or fine-tuning. The third blank appears in: the team wants rigid JSON output and has examples mapping inputs to correctly formatted JSON outputs. The blank. The candidates are 3. Continued pre-training or fine-tuning. Question type, drop-down. The correct answer is 1. Fine-tuning. 2. Continued pre-training. 3. Fine-tuning. Here is why this answer is correct. Fine-tuning uses curated input-output examples to adapt behavior, tone, or output format. Continued pre-training uses a large corpus of unstructured domain text to adapt the model's domain vocabulary and knowledge. Answer rows. 1. The team wants the model to adopt a conversational persona and has 1000 prompt and response examples. Select vertical bar. Fine-tuning vertical bar labeled examples adapt behavior and tone. 2. The team wants the model to learn deep commodities market terminology from 50 gigabytes of unstructured trading reports. Select vertical bar. Continued pre-training vertical bar large unstructured corpora support domain adaptation. 3. The team wants rigid JSON output and has examples mapping inputs to correctly formatted JSON outputs. Select vertical bar. Fine-tuning vertical bar input-output examples teach task-specific formatting behavior. Here is an important exam tip. Use fine-tuning for labeled task examples and continued pre-training for large unstructured domain corpora. Move to question number 191. Identify the requirement in this scenario. An IT security team wants to train a machine learning model to analyze incoming network packets. The model must evaluate each packet and output exactly one of two possible predictions, malicious or safe. Which specific type of machine learning task is this model performing? Review the options. Option A, regression. Option B, binary classification. Option C, diffusion. Option D, multi-class classification. The option that satisfies the complete requirement is B, binary classification. Here is the reasoning that confirms the answer. Binary classification is a type of supervised machine learning where the goal is to categorize data points into exactly one of two distinct, mutually exclusive classes. Predicting whether a network packet is malicious or safe, or whether a transaction is fraud or not fraud, is the textbook definition of binary classification. The incorrect choices are plausible, but unsuitable because A. Regression predicts continuous numerical values, for example, temperature or price, not distinct categories. C. Diffusion models generate content, like images from noise, and they do not classify data into categories. D. Multi-class classification categorizes data into three or more distinct classes, for example, cat, dog, or bird, whereas this scenario only has two options. Exam strategy. Predicting exactly two outcomes, yes, no, fraud, safe, true, false, is binary classification. For question number 192. Separate the requirement from the distractors. The focus now shifts to generative AI basics. Pay attention to qualifiers such as least, most, and minimum. A logistics company uses a traditional, hard-coded script that relies on regular expressions to extract dates and locations from shipping emails. The script breaks frequently when vendors change their email formatting. The company replaces the script with a large language model, LLM. What is the primary advantage of using a generative AI model instead of hard-coded logic for this extraction task? Watch for distractors that are valid services but wrong for this scenario. Next, option A. The generative model provides greater explainability of its internal execution steps than a standard script. Next, option B. The generative model guarantees mathematical predictability and identical outputs every time. Next, option C. The generative model provides greater adaptability to variations and unstructured formatting in the input data. Next, option D. The generative model is completely insensitive to changes in the prompt instructions. After elimination, select C. The generative model provides greater adaptability to variations and unstructured formatting in the input data. This option satisfies the complete requirement because hard-coded regular expressions depend on expected formats and can fail when layouts change. An LLM can use semantic context to generalize across a wider range of unstructured wording and layouts, although its output still requires evaluation and validation. A rules-based script is generally easier to inspect than the internal reasoning of a large neural model. B. LLMs are probabilistic and do not guarantee identical outputs for every invocation. D. LLM behavior is sensitive to prompt wording and instructions. Use this elimination rule in the exam. LLMs can handle varied unstructured language more flexibly than rigid rules, but their outputs are probabilistic and should be validated. Question number 193 contains an important exam distinction. Focus on the requirement that drives the design choice. A healthcare company has fine-tuned a supported foundation model in Amazon Bedrock to summarize patient intake forms. The application processes a high, steady request volume throughout the day and requires predictable dedicated model capacity. Which deployment and pricing strategy best meets these requirements? The exam distinction is hidden in these choices. Now examine choice A. Store the model in Amazon S3 and host it using AWS Lambda. Now examine choice B. Purchase provision throughput for the custom model in Amazon Bedrock. Now examine choice C. Deploy the custom model manually to an Amazon EC2 instance. Now examine choice D. Deploy the eligible custom model for on-demand inference in Amazon Bedrock. The correct choice is B. Purchase provision throughput for the custom model in Amazon Bedrock. Provision throughput allocates model units for a base or custom model at a fixed hourly cost and is designed for workloads that need predictable, dedicated throughput. This best fits a high, steady production workload. The remaining options fail one or more requirements because A. Amazon Bedrock manages custom model inference. Storing model artifacts in S3 does not create a suitable Lambda-hosted LLM endpoint. C. A Bedrock custom model is invoked through Bedrock rather than manually deployed to EC2. D. On-demand custom model deployment is available for eligible models and regions, but it does not reserve the dedicated throughput required by the scenario. Choose provision throughput for predictable dedicated capacity. Use eligible on-demand custom model deployment for usage-based inference without reserved capacity. Question number 194 is a good test of exam judgment. This question moves us into Bedrock guardrails. The key exam clue is contained in this scenario. A bank is configuring guardrails for Amazon Bedrock across several generative AI workflows. Select the guardrails policy that best addresses each requirement. Solve the blanks one at a time. Do not carry assumptions between them. Now solve statement 1. The bank needs to detect and block discriminatory remarks or content that promotes physical harm. The blank. Choose the stronger fit from 1. Content filters, contextual grounding check, or denied topics. Now solve statement 2. The bank wants to block discussions about political elections or cryptocurrency. The blank. Choose the stronger fit from 2. Contextual grounding check, denied topics, or word filters. Now solve statement 3. In a document summarization workflow, the bank wants to detect and filter summaries that are insufficiently grounded in the supplied policy document. The blank. Choose the stronger fit from 3. Content filters, contextual grounding check, or word filters. Question type, drop down. The correct answer is 1. Content filters. 2. Denied topics. 3. Contextual grounding check. Here is why this answer is correct. Content filters detect predefined harmful categories such as hate and violence. Denied topics block administrator-defined subject areas. Contextual grounding checks core grounding and relevance against supplied source material and can filter responses below configured thresholds for supported use cases such as summarization. Answer rows. 1. The bank needs to detect and block discriminatory remarks or content that promotes physical harm. Select vertical bar content filters. Vertical bar detects predefined harmful content categories. 2. The bank wants to block discussions about political elections or cryptocurrency. Select vertical bar denied topics. Vertical bar blocks custom themes described by the administrator. 3. In a document summarization workflow, the bank wants to detect and filter summaries that are insufficiently grounded in the supplied policy document. Select vertical bar contextual grounding check. Vertical bar evaluates response grounding against the supplied reference source. Here is an important exam tip. Content filters address predefined harms, denied topics block custom subjects, and contextual grounding checks evaluate supported outputs against source material. Next, question number 195. A pharmaceutical company is building a generative AI chatbot to help researchers quickly query internal drug trial documents. The company's compliance board insists that the chatbot must have safety mechanisms to proactively block toxic language, hate speech, and prompt injection attacks. Which AWS service or feature provides these native safety and responsible AI protections? Compare. Option A. AWS Trusted Advisor. Option B. Amazon Recognition. Option C. Guardrails for Amazon Bedrock. Option D. Amazon Inspector. The best answer is C. Guardrails for Amazon Bedrock. The requirement to solution match is Guardrails for Amazon Bedrock provides robust, configurable safety protections for generative AI applications. It natively detects and filters harmful content, toxicity, hate speech, blocks prompt injection attacks, redacts sensitive PII, and restricts denied topics, fulfilling the compliance board's responsible AI mandates. Here is how to rule out the alternatives. A. AWS Trusted Advisor evaluates your AWS account against best practices for cost, security, and performance. It does not filter AI chat inputs. B. Amazon Recognition is a computer vision service, not a text filtering or AI safety mechanism for LLMs. D. Amazon Inspector scans EC2 instances and containers for software vulnerabilities. It has nothing to do with generative AI prompt filtering. A useful exam pattern is this. To implement responsible AI safety mechanisms, filtering toxicity, PII, prompt injections, and topics natively on generative AI applications, use guardrails for Amazon Bedrock. Let's analyze question number 196. Read the scenario with the target outcome in mind. A data science team is benchmarking several foundation models to find the best one for condensing long news articles into short executive briefs. The team wants to use an automated metric to score the AI's output against a set of human-written reference briefs. Which evaluation metric is the standard choice for this specific natural language task? Use the scenario constraints to assess these choices. Option A is bilingual evaluation understudy, blue, score. Option B is mean squared error, MSE. Option C is root score. Option D is accuracy. The correct choice is C, root score. The key clue points here because ROOJ, recall-oriented understudy for gisting evaluation, is the industry standard automated metric used for evaluating natural language processing tasks focused on text summarization. It measures the quality of the AI-generated summary by calculating the overlap of engrams between the AI output and the human-written reference text. Check why each remaining option is not the best fit. A. Blue, bilingual evaluation understudy, is the standard metric used for evaluating text translation tasks, not summarization tasks. B. Mean squared error, MSE, is a metric for evaluating traditional regression models, predicting continuous numbers. D. Accuracy is a metric for classification tasks, for example, spam versus not spam. It cannot effectively evaluate the nuanced semantic overlap of a generated text summary. Watch for this clue in similar questions. Summarization evaluation is equal to rouge. Translation evaluation is equal to blue. Question number 197. Find the decisive clue before choosing. Next, we enter the topic of fine-tuning. Look for the wording that eliminates the distractors. A software team is considering whether they should use a base foundation model ASIS or invest the time and resources to fine-tune it using their own proprietary dataset of labeled customer interactions. What is the primary technical benefit of choosing to fine-tune the foundation model? Eliminate every option that violates even one requirement. Consider option A. It keeps the model's knowledge up to date by automatically fetching the most recent data from the internet. Consider option B. It improves the model's performance on a specific task by updating its weights based on the new labeled data. Consider option C. It reduces the physical size of the model parameters, resulting in slower but more accurate inference. Consider option D. It abandons the original model weights and retrains the entire foundation model from scratch for maximum accuracy. The required response is B. It improves the model's performance on a specific task by updating its weights based on the new labeled data. The decisive reason is fine-tuning takes a pre-trained foundation model and further trains it using a smaller, task-specific dataset of labeled examples. This process slightly adjusts the model's internal parameters, weights, significantly improving its accuracy and adherence to instructions for that specific task, for example, formatting outputs, matching a brand voice. Now eliminate the distractors. A. Fine-tuning does not connect the model to the internet to fetch data that describes our AG or agents. C. Fine-tuning does not reduce the physical size of the model. That technique is called model quantization. D. Fine-tuning explicitly uses the existing pre-trained weights as a starting point. Training a foundation model completely from scratch is astronomically more expensive and is not called fine-tuning. Remember this decision rule. Fine-tuning modifies the internal weights of an existing foundation model to adapt it to a specific task using labeled examples. You have completed part 7 of the AIF-C01 exam practice series. Continue your preparation by opening the complete playlist and watching the remaining parts in sequence. Please like this video, subscribe to Tech with Kaushik, and enable notifications for more certification exam preparation content. Share your score, questions, or feedback in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you in the next part.